Turn up the dive, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, monsters. Welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge here on the Untold Radio Network. Lee, are we live or Memorex today? We are live. Who uses Memorex anymore? No. We are live in studio. If you guys have questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section. The comment section looks like it's already hopping here. Wendell Mosley, 911, I believe you are going to be on the show in 2 weeks. So November 10th. Looking forward to having you on, everybody that is aware of Wendell. So that's exciting coming up as well. But yes, we are live. Lee, everybody else, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. It is off to a good start here. With that being said, guys, we are wrapping up this year here for Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, coming off of a big October. A lot of library presentations, a lot of cool stuff that we had going on. We are calming down, though. We are heading into the next event for us is going to be in December, where you can come out and meet us in person. We are going to be at the Milwaukee Krampus Festival, Sunday, December 7th in the Brewery District. You can get more information on that at wisconsincaps.com. Click on the Public Events tab and get all the information. And then we head into next year already, May 2nd, 1st, and 3rd in Delavan, Wisconsin at the Contact Modalities Expo. And then, of course, Cryptid Con in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, Saturday, May 9th. So some cool stuff coming up here. And tickets for CapCon, sponsored by Hangar One Publishing and Sasquatch's Variety Shop and Phantasm Paranormal go on sale January 1st, as well as the second round of speaker announcements for you guys. So that's exciting. All right. And that's all we got for announcements today. So pretty quick today because, like I said, rounded up with all of the stuff that we had going on. So we can jump right into our guest. All right, guys, my guest today is Mark Green. He is from East Central Alabama. He grew up in a family of farming, hunting, and fishing, and started researching Bigfoot after a sighting in Alabama, January 2007. He found out later that he had them on his hunting lease, which he calls Creepy Mountain, and various other places in the Talladega National Forest. He and his wife have a YouTube channel, and they discuss homesteading, farming, Bigfooting, paranormal, the Bible, and more, called Cedar Creek Bottoms Farmstead Life. You can check him out on Facebook and YouTube in the show notes. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Mark Green. Mark, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, how y'all doing? Glad to be here.
You seem to be very popular. Look at all the people we got live in the audience today. Here it is, very active over there already for just hitting off here. So we're off to a good start. So if you guys have any questions throughout the show, put them in all caps because there's a lot going on over there, and then I can kind of pay attention to them more. So, Mark, it is awesome to have you here. You started out. You said that 2007 you had your first sighting. And I want to back up before that because you said that you also maybe had potential activity while out raccoon hunting and stuff before that. But were you interested in Bigfoot? Were you interested in cryptids or these dogman creatures prior to that?
I had watched some stuff, when I was younger on like the Legend of Boggy Creek, and I think it was the Creature of Black Lake, and I'd seen like the Leonard Nimoy, in search of, and it caught my interest, but I didn't dive off in it real deep. If it happened to be on, I'd watch it. Never did really discuss it with anybody too much either. As much as I stayed in the woods, I still didn't pay things attention, that I probably should have, or didn't realize to pay attention. But, of course, had some, seen a UFO. I was about 14, 15. Me and my cousin watched it go by. And then had some paranormal stuff happen when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. But not nothing drastic, that made me really pay this subject, a lot of attention, But to come to find out, after I had my sighting down in Lowndes County, and got into this really talking to other Bigfoot researchers and even paranormal people, I started realizing that probably prior to that, I'd had a lot more stuff happening. I just didn't realize what was happening. Didn't know what to gauge it with. So, we always just wrote it off. Oh, that's an animal. This made a new racket or something, or, that's a smell that, some kind of animals up around us, or, trees falling by themselves with no wind blowing, that's just nature, which, some of them are. But, so, just stuff like that. So, but, once I got into it, I hit it wide open. So, once I had that sighting. So
interesting. So for, I'm sure you've told us on a lot of podcasts. So briefly, tell us a little bit what happened with your first sighting.
All right. Well, I'll try to keep it short that way. Me and two friends of mine went down to Lowndes County, Alabama, to the wildlife management area to hunt. It was on a Friday in January of 2007. We hunted all morning. And that's about maybe 90 miles from here. Even though we had our own hunting lease and all that around here, sometimes I just like a change up,
Mhm.
And plus they have hogs down there, so we was, hoping we might harvest a hog too or something. But we left out early, got down there. We hunted what they call the north side of the management area toward the Alabama River side. And then that afternoon, we went to the south side to what they call the Swamp Creek area. And we hunted a big green patch. This whole green patch is about 300-400 yards long, give or take, something like that. So we stood on it parallel, so we wouldn't be, shooting at each other or anything. So one of my friends at one end, one was in the middle, and I was at the very other end, was all facing out in the field. Beautiful afternoon, a little cool. All the Air Force jets were flying back and forth because that right there close to Gunner Air Force Base. So I was paying attention to, just enjoying the afternoon. Roughly a little bit before 4 o'clock, 2 does entered the field to feed. I was sitting there enjoying watching them. They were relaxed. A little after 4, maybe 4:15, I noticed they started looking back into the woods a good bit behind me. I noticed they started paying attention. I could hear something moving. Of course, I was thinking we were in the middle of the rut, so I was thinking a buck deer was on his way. He done been following those 2 does, and he was slipping up. And so I was getting ready, for a nice buck probably to step out. Well, this went on for a few more minutes, and all of a sudden these 2 does just throw their tails up and blowed, and they run the opposite way wide open. And I was like, well, that's weird. I know they'll play chase, but usually they don't do like that. But I still thinking a buck. Wasn't dreaming about what I was fixing to see. Kept hearing the movement, and the movement kind of started moving kind of directly in behind me. And that struck me odd, and of course I was thinking it knows something's here and it's trying to win me. I figured that, because they have that sense too, the deer and all that. They know when somebody's looking at them. So I was figuring, I said, yeah, he's trying to bust me. He knows I'm here somewhere. Didn't realize something else was trying to bust me. But I was sitting up against a big old ancient white oak. It was a big one. And my curiosity started getting the best of me. So what I did was I slid up the tree. I was sitting on the ground, so I just eased up, using the tree to conceal myself. Got my rifle kind of ready, and I kind of just peeped around that tree into the background. Didn't see nothing for a second. I scanned the whole woods, and then all of a sudden I seen movement behind the tree. Not far from me, 60, 70 foot. Back in there. Now, this place is kind of darker because it had palmettos, and they was all about waist high. And if anybody around the south knows what I'm talking about, down in the swampy areas, palmettos. I seen what looked like part of a head and part of a shoulder and an arm and part of a torso. What I was looking, I said, is that a person? And of course, first thing that come to my mind was a person that done walked in behind me, and why didn't he have hunter's orange on and right here during the middle of a management area hunt, And it would go back and it would peep back and then I've done something I probably shouldn't have done. I did not bring my binoculars that day. Even though I was that close, I still could not tell what I was really looking at. So I pulled my scope up and looked down the scope at it. And then that's when I seen, as I tell people, this big, wad of hair, kind of like the teenagers do, if you know what I'm talking about, kind of down in front of its face. It was hairy, kind of a dark brown color. I could see the shoulder real good, the arm. And I knew then I was not looking at a human. I knew I was looking at something else. Then all of a sudden, it went down on all fours and shot out of there like a rocket. And what I mean by like a rocket, it could catch a deer. I've told everybody that's the fastest thing I ever seen move like it. You could see the palmettos moving, and it went back into the swamp. I'm assuming why it done that is because I probably pointed the rifle at it, but I don't know that for sure. He probably knew what that rifle was. All during this time, I wasn't afraid till after it left. You know, I guess it's like when you say reality set in. Because at first I'm like, what am I looking at? Then, so it was getting close to dark by then, and of course I started getting anxiety from it and everything. And I come on out, started walking up the field, kind of keeping an eye behind me as I was walking. I got up to about where a friend was in the middle and hollered out for him. He come out, and I asked him, I said, you see anybody or see anything? You know, he said, no. He said, definitely quiet in here. He didn't see a deer up in his stand. And we got on up to the end and realized our other friend had done went on to the truck. And we get up to the truck. He's there. And he looks at me and he said, what's wrong with you, Mark? That's what you mean. He said, something wrong with you. You know, he knew then, you know, and I said, well, I seen something. We got on in the truck, come on back home. The next day, the one that asked me if something was wrong came over to see me. He said, what happened to you yesterday? And, you know, in there. And I said, well, I seen something. Kind of described it to him. He said, you seen a Bigfoot? I said, yeah, I think that's what I saw. He said, I have to. He said, don't worry about it. So, and he ended up becoming my research partner for years. And so that's kind of what got the ball started years ago. Got me into this field and got into it a little deeper after I'd done some contacts. And that was with the AlabamaBigfoot.com. It doesn't exist no more. The guy who owned that website passed away, and his family shut it down. You can still go deep in the web and find some of the reports and some of the stuff off of there. You have to really dig. But I became friends with him and another guy that went by, his web name was Tal Banco, but his real name was Billy White. He is a well-known Bigfoot researcher here in the South. Went all over the South, but Alabama and Arkansas, his two favorite places, because he was from Arkansas. So started learning a lot from them, and they had a chat and met a lot of people through that chat, and ended up later on going to some outings with a lot of these people. And it's kind of just rolled over the years to where it is now, where we have our YouTube channel, and we've got tons of YouTube family that we consider family. A bunch of them's in the chat today, right here.
The chat is very active today.
So, and I mean, me and Rebecca consider these people family. And in fact, I've seen a couple of them this weekend, and see them pretty regular, you know, when we have get-togethers and stuff. So we have a big family now. With several other podcasts that's involved. And we have some meet and greets. We're going to have one that's coming up spring. So it's been a real good ride. You know, I've seen some sad stuff from this too, but overall it's been a good ride, you know.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So I'd like to go back and pick a little bit at your sighting here, if we could, because there's something that stands out to me, and maybe you didn't see it, but when you said this thing dropped down on all fours and then took off, were you still able to see how it moved, and like, could you see it as it ran off?
Not real well because of the palmettos, because you know they're about waist high. And when it took off, I could get glimpses of it. But to see the real motion, no, I couldn't. Later on, we did go back to that place. That was in January. Mr. Tao met me and my friend Keith there in May of that year. We found tracks there in May at some wild plum bushes. We went down to my siding spot. We found more tracks that were fresh. We determined he was probably around 7 foot, his height. Judging from where I stood, and Mr. Tao went and stood at that tree, and we found different tracks in there. Like he said they're using this area regularly because it's kind of off to the side there, so it's probably a good place for them to use where they don't get caught much. And so they definitely there. I've heard this. I've took some more reports from there. I had Mr. Terry is a few months. Well, it's probably back in the winter about his sighting from Lowndes County, and come to find out, it was a mile from mine, but it was back in the 1980s. So that really sunk into me how long stuff had been going on in that area. And in fact, in 1993, there was a magazine article wrote. It was Alabama Game and Fish magazine. And it was called Stalked in Dallas County. And just a few miles from where me and Mr. Terry had seen our boogers, there was a hunting club that was experiencing a lot of stuff. And that was a very good magazine article. I remember reading that in 1993 because I used to subscribe to that. And, the guy went in detail pretty deep, and come to find out there was really a lot more to that than just that article. Because Mr. Tao really went to digging in it and went and met with them years later. He went and met with them in the early 2000s. Come to find out that hunting club in the surrounding area for years had been seeing them, and even the local people who lived there knew about them. In fact, when it come dark, those people would not come outside. And the other thing you would notice in that area, and I noticed this, was everybody have their back porch lights and front porch lights on. And so, they knew something. They knew something was pilfering around, so, and it's, if you was to go to that area, you could see it's very swampy, old farmland. The state owns it now. They've went in and planted it back in timber, most of it, which there's still tons of agricultural land around it. And of course, the Alabama River borders the whole north end of it. So, it's swampy type land, because when you get into Lowndes County, you're getting into what we call the coastal plain of Alabama, or what they call the Black Belt. It's more of the sandy loam land, swampy, low, river bottoms, So, but I know I got off a little bit talking about that when your first question was, but no, I did not get to really witness it moving through the palmettos that well.
Okay.
But I'll tell you this, the speed of it really caught my eye. That told me something. And since then, I have heard tons and tons of people say the same thing. They are fast,
Now, why I bring that up is one of the members of my team, Chris McCreary, he has seen one of these things come across the road in front of him and then ran down the ditch line on all fours, like straight towards his vehicle or next to it in the ditch. And he described the movement as the arm would come around and up and then kind of dig into the ground and throw itself forward. Okay. So I was wondering if obviously you didn't see too much, but if you noticed any kind of motion of like the arms swinging around to the sides or up and over kind of motion. And then the other thing was, did you happen to notice if it goes kind of in a straight line or at an angled like that as it goes up, more similar to how like gorillas run? if that makes sense to you.
Didn't really notice like the arms or anything really coming up. And I want to say it was pretty much in a straight line. Really what I could see was the palmettos moving. You could see them parting. You know, you could see them come out, you know, and you could tell it. And every now and then I might get a little glimpse of its, I would say its back. But as far as seeing the arm movement, no, I couldn't really see it or the leg movement. So I don't really know. And where it went back into a real deep swamp that's full of water. I've been listening to beavers back there slap the water with their tail all morning or all evening. And I heard alligators a couple of times grunt back there. So he went straight back into that area. And I'm talking about, yeah, he moved. That rascal could move. And I would probably say if one was chasing you, if he really wants you, he's going to get you, you know. So.
No, that's perfectly fair. I mean, you know, like there's so many things going on there as far as, you know, like you said, with the palmettos and being your first encounter and stuff, there's a lot going on in your head. But you know, if you happen to remember anything, it was worth the chance of trying to ask and see if you got any more out of it. But yeah, it's very interesting. So, all right, cool. Very cool. Well, let us move on from that then here. Very, very cool encounter. And it's awesome that, you know, you kind of spiraled off of this and started off. Let me ask you this. You know, you said that you had some paranormal encounters. You said you had a UFO sighting and stuff. And then you had this Bigfoot encounter. Why do you think that this Bigfoot encounter was what sparked you? Why didn't you get interested more into the paranormal or the UFOs?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
What we're here for, the good questions.
Well, I mean, I ain't really never thought about that really. Of course, the UFO was back when I was about 14 or 15. And you know, there was talk of UFOs. You know, there's shows about UFOs. And I believed then, you know, there were UFOs. And, you know, me and my cousin witnessed that one night. We were sitting on the tailgate of a truck and we just watched this object come through the sky going real slow. And then all of a sudden it just like that. And I mean, it was gone. I said, wait a minute. You know, me and him both like, wait a minute. You know, that didn't just make sense right there. We don't know of anything going horizontal and does a complete vertical and, you know, that quick and just leaves, you know, and we both were like, man, you know, this don't make sense. And then after I had seen the Bigfoot, we seen you know, after I had my sighting, me and two other guys coon hunting witnessed you know, a triangular looking object come over us as we were heading some dogs one time. This was after the Bigfoot sighting. But as far as paranormal, there was a few things in my home church. You could be sitting up there in the sanctuary sometimes at night because we used to have choir practice. And sometimes me and another person would be sitting there talking or something. This is after I got grown. And we'd hear footsteps coming down the floor of the church. A lot of times we would be having fellowship suppers on Saturday night. We'd all be in the basement of the church and we'd hear walking upstairs. And of course, wouldn't nobody be up there. Then the grist mill that my grandfather ran for years, where my mother grew up and her siblings, they encountered a lot of paranormal stuff growing up there around that grist mill. And I have got glimpses of stuff up there over the years. This was prior to the Bigfoot stuff. I witnessed a few things, and then I witnessed some stuff coon hunting, like balls of light that now we talk about are orbs. That stuff didn't really get my interest. I mean, I was interested, but I didn't go to researching it. I see it. Okay, it happened. That's the end of it. The booger or Bigfoot was totally different. that really caught my attention because, too, we've been told they don't exist. Everybody kind of says, yeah, the ghost stuff exists. The UFO exists. You hear tons of people come out and say they seen UFOs or they seen apparition, ghost, whatever, the lights. So, but you didn't hear many people saying, hey, I seen a Bigfoot. Not in my part of the country, then. And so when I seen that, yes, that's when it sparked my interest, and I really went to paying attention to what people were saying. And then over time, I really started noticing that this stuff kind of goes together. It kind of all winds up in one spot. So that's a good question, because you're the first one that's ever really asked that one. So that was made me think of it. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Lee Warner is in our chats here, and she's very interested in the UFO stuff and that. So this might be a little personal question. You can not answer it if you want, but she wanted to know what your blood type was.
I think my blood type is plus A.
A positive. Okay.
I think my blood type is plus A.
Okay. She says a lot of the what was it? I just read it. The O negative.
Right.
Is is O negative. So interesting. Okay, there we go. And I have one other question since we're on that subject now here. Larry would like to know, have you ever seen any of the little people when you're out in the woods, or any sign of them?
As far as I know, I haven't seen any little people. Now, we found before on our vehicles little bitty handprints and stuff. I can't say where they come from. Have no idea. But I haven't seen that personally yet. Know some people that have, but I haven't. So,
all right, cool. I think to back to the point of like the UFO, paranormal, and Bigfoot thing. I a lot of people are like, well, people see one, they see all these things, they're just crazy, blah blah blah. And I don't think that's what it is. I think that when we have an encounter with one of these things, whatever it happens to be, it changes your whole paradigm. And then all of a sudden you start going, well, if I'm not crazy and I saw that, what else is out there? And then you don't make a conscious effort, but you start paying attention to the things that you see out of the corner of your eye and those noises and stuff. And so you're aware when something makes a noise, when you see a shadow go by and you turn and look, now you're more aware of the things that have always been there to begin with, but you're more open and perceptive to say, I think I saw a ghost, and I think that's where this comes from. So I think it's very, very logical that, the people that are in this field have these more and more experiences with the whole realm of all these things.
I agree. I think once you have a sighting, you really go paying attention to your surroundings and what's going on. Where when you don't pay it as much attention. And I catch myself just going down the highway, especially if my wife's driving, where I can watch the wood line, looking for sign, looking for tree bows or watching for one standing in the wood line. And if I go around old home places or old buildings, I catch myself looking for, a light or a fog looking thing, or, I catch myself looking for that stuff and paying attention. And if I'm out in a good field where I can look up in the sky, I'm usually looking up in the sky at night, I'm scanning, and so and a lot of times I don't even say nothing to nobody else. I'll just be sitting there looking, watching, and then if I see something, I'll bring it up, and if I don't, I don't bring it up. Here a few weeks ago, we had Chris Reinhardt and Adam and another friend, Bud, down. They were visiting Alabama, going around to Coombo's property and Greg's property, mine, and then they went on down to Flat Rocks down in South Alabama. but we're all sitting up on Creepy Mountain one night, and we're sitting there at the lake kind of watching, and in fact, Patrick's in here. He caught something shoot across, you know, he caught something go across the sky there in front of us. And, the rest of us didn't see it, but he caught it, and so there's no telling what we miss when we're not, if we're talking or looking off somewhere else, what goes by around us, we never see. So it's, but that, the Bigfoot was, I guess, what you call brought me to reality, or got me to thinking a lot different,
Mm-hmm. That's a good point there. We did a convention here in Wisconsin. We ran, and we did 3 groups, went out into the woods in the same area, about maybe a couple miles apart though. And we were out Bigfooting the night before the convention. All 3 groups didn't have any like Bigfoot activity, but we all saw the same UFO.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. We all came back afterwards and like, did you see the UFO? Oh yeah, we saw it. Did you? Yeah, we got a picture of it and all that stuff. And it's like, no. We're supposed to be looking for Bigfoot. You're not out there looking for UFOs.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, we've got a place that a lot of us meet up at in the Talladega National Forest that it just doesn't have the boogers, but it has a lot of the orbs happening, the flashes of light, the vibrations of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And Creepy Mountain has some of the similar stuff too. And I know there's some other places that do the same thing. I've heard people talk about them. So, it's just something that, you go to some of these places, there's just more than Bigfoot there,
Mm-hmm.
And we went to do a paranormal thing one night at a cemetery and ended up having more Bigfoot activity than we did the paranormal. I mean, it's crazy. You think you'd have more paranormal, and Lord, the Bigfoot was there at the cemetery, on the other end of it. So, I mean, it's just, you never know what's going to show up, and so it's just one of them things. But
that's like I was telling you, we were talking about my group Caps before we went on the air here, and when we go out, we get a sighting report, no matter what it is, if it's Bigfoot, fairy, dogman, what have you. We don't go out to investigate that. We go out to the location to see what we catch. Right.
Yeah.
So we can see a UFO there. We can go see paranormal. You can go Bigfoot, but we go out there to look at that location, not to go Bigfooting or not to look for the paranormal or a specific phenomenon, but just see what comes out, because you go in with blinders on. Like I said, a lot of people put these orbs in the same category as Bigfoot, but that's, they could be connected. You don't know, but that's the same as going out deer hunting, like you were, and seeing a Bigfoot. Do you think that the Bigfoot is a deer? No, of course you don't. So why would you think that if you're out Bigfooting and you see an orb that these things have to be connected? They could be, but you just don't know. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
There was years ago another researcher friend of mine. His name is Adam, and he researched with me and Keith for years, and then he backed out because he got the feeling it was demonic. So he backed out. But me and him got invited by some ghost hunters one time to go down to Opelika, Alabama, to the Spring Villa plantation. And it's an odd looking plantation. The guy, it ain't your typical Greek column type antebellum house. This house is built more on a European, the old European with the real sharp roofs. And I mean, you go back and look at old Germany or some France houses that, it's just odd looking for this part of the country. But we got invited to come down there because that Spring Villa was their kind of home base of their research. And boy, there was some weird stuff that went on there. But in their time, they had been catching stuff on their thermals and on their EMFs and stuff that they didn't think was paranormal. They got to looking at Bigfoot. So somehow they decided to bring in a couple of Bigfoot researchers to help them. So they contacted me and Adam. We went with them on a Saturday night down there. And this night was crazy because they was having a geocache if everybody knows what a geocache is, they were having it there same weekend. And I told my buddy, I said, I don't know how this is going to work because these people are going to be hiding stuff all in the woods. Here we are with a ghost bunch. I said, I don't know how we're going to handle all this because, and we had some thermals that were given to us at the time by a guy that was wanting to try to get all the thermals he could get from people. So he sent us 2 very nice thermals, and we ran them for 6 months. But that, of course, the geocache group kind of calmed down after about 10 o'clock at night. They all got at their camp, and they done their thing. So we knew the woods was empty. But I did tell Adam, I said, well, I will say this: if they got Bigfoot, this is gonna draw them. All these people running around in the woods and all this. Well, later on that night, we did think we had some Bigfoot show up because heard a whoop and heard a few other things that pointed toward him. But I'm going to tell you, the paranormal was off the scale down there. That's the first time I'd ever seen what they call a banshee, the black object that flies through the air. Now, that bite made me and Adam ready to pack up and leave. Because I finally, it kept shooting around us. And I finally asked one of those ladies, I said, what's this black thing that keeps flying around? And she said, oh, that's a banshee. I said, a banshee? I said, ain't that supposed to be real evil? She said, yeah. She said, I said, and we're down here fooling with this stuff? So, and then later that night, we were across the road in it's old hayfield, but there's Indian mounds over in that area, which I'd already done. I typically don't fool around Indian mounds. But we were all standing out in the field. Me and 3 other guys were standing there, and 2 other guys, excuse me, there's 3 of us. The ladies were standing back about 100 yards from us, and they had thermals running, and they had night vision and stuff going. And all of a sudden, they said standing right beside me was an object, another human looking figure, but it was just taller than me. And I'm 6'1". And they said this was probably 6'5", 6'6". I didn't see nothing standing there, but they got it on film. When you go look, there's a 4th person standing there with us. Now, my buddy Adam said he felt something during that time. He felt kind of like something was there with us. I didn't feel it, but he did.
Hot or cold? Excuse me. Was it hot or cold?
It was cold looking on the thermal. So that was strange. That was just very strange. But I think they had them there, and come to find out, there'd been 2 sightings within 2 miles of that place for a few years prior. So I said, yeah, I could see where, because most of that old plantation was wooded, and the city of Opelika had got control of it, and they put a little park there, and they had campground and give tours of the old plantation house. And I mean, we called all kind of stuff around that old plantation house too. I mean, it was wild. That's when I knew I wasn't really a paranormal person. I stick with the Bigfoot. My wife wants to go to these places. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to fool with that place or not. So
you guys go in the house. I'll be in the woods out back. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I might see that Bigfoot coming at me. You can't see them spirits coming at you. So, oh man.
Grandizer has a question for you. He says, Mark, in your research, any areas of your state that have aggressive Bigfoot areas or stories, like in the Spotsville monster attacks in Kentucky?
There's a few places in Alabama that have stood out with kind of aggressive Bigfoot. Bankhead Forest has a little bit. That's Bankhead National Forest, which is up kind of North Alabama. There's a spot in the Talladega National Forest that's had some aggressiveness, and supposedly somebody killed by something unknown. People finding deserted tents, camp tore up, and down toward below Auburn, and where I was just talking about Auburn, Opelika area, down past that, there's a place down in there where a lot of weird stuff went on. It's on a dirt road. I can't even think of the name of it right now. It hit me here in a minute, but they've had a lot of stuff in that area. They found a lot of dead bodies. A lot of the locals stay away from that place. They just said it's an odd place. I'm trying to think. There was something somewhere else where some rough stuff went on one time. Down in South Alabama. You don't hear anything real, not like the Boggy Creek where the creature tried to knock the window out, with that Ford family. You don't hear that stuff too much, but there's a few areas where and I've been on some property with some that were kind of aggressive. And what I mean, they just put off a bad vibe to me. In other words, if like we wasn't welcome there, we want you out of here. And you could feel it in the air that we wasn't welcome, and it was probably best to get out of there. I've been to several of those places. But I hadn't heard anything. I'm trying to think. Here in Alabama, they seem most of the time pretty peaceful, really. I mean, yeah, they'll throw rocks at your house or slap your house or throw rocks at you or sticks. Most of the time, they ain't really trying to hit you, what I've noticed. Sometimes they'll scream at you or roar. I've had what we call the T-Rex roar. And what the T-Rex roar is, about the only thing you can really base it on if you was watching Jurassic Park and you hear that old T-Rex. Well, this is sort of similar to it. It's that hits you in the chest vibration type sound. It's a sound that you are not going to hear much out in nature, not in our time. The first time I heard that, I mean, we was all gasping. We didn't know what to do for a minute. We didn't know to get in the truck and leave or what was fixing to take place. But
you had mentioned that you guys have alligators and stuff down there as well, and I know that they make a very bassy growl and stuff as well. How does their vocals compare to what you're hearing or other Bigfoot vocals?
Oh, the Bigfoot just outdoes it. There's totally difference. Yeah. Now, right here, exactly where I live, we don't have hardly any alligators because I think we're right on that line of the code. You have to go about 60, 70 miles south of here, and that's where you really start getting into where alligators are. I mean, there's a few pop up in here every now and then. Sometimes we wonder if somebody's turned them loose or something. But what I've heard down there in South Alabama, the gators, and then being in Florida and South Georgia, I've heard gators at night, and there's nothing. When this T-Rex roar goes off, that gator can't hold a T to it. There's no way. That first time we heard it, I know everything on that mountain, probably for a 5-mile range, had to hear that thing when it went off. I mean, it was so loud and it was powerful. I mean, it had that like, I am the king of the woods right now, and we said, yeah, you are right now. So you this is your area, no doubt. So, and then we've had the screams, or they're not as bad. But I mean, they still vibrate you a little bit, and then the howls are usually different. What I hear, they don't really, the vibration from it don't come hit you. It's just that howl, but you can tell that difference from a coyote, or you can tell there's a difference in it, and so. But yeah, that T-Rex, if you ever get to experience what we call that, because I don't really know what else to base it off of. If you hear that, you'll know it. You'll know it right off bat what you just heard. my friend Greg House up, he's had them do the roar at a motorcycle. The motorcycle was going down the highway, loud motorcycle, and this thing went to roaring at that motorcycle. And he said, and I guess you could call it the T-Rex roar. What he heard too. I mean, it was vibrating the whole place, and they was expecting get up on the highway and find a dude, scattered down the highway from the Bigfoot. Of course, that didn't happen, but but there have been some aggression toward people. I think they're trying to run you out. That's my opinion. When you get in a place, they're just trying to run you out. Or if you do something toward them that they don't like, then you might have some trouble out of that too, But I've heard of a lot of friendly stuff happening with them too. So I think it can go either way, I think it deals a lot with the person.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to like shoot at them and stuff like that. You hear a lot of the aggression comes out of the provocation of humans.
Well, if somebody's shooting at me, I'm gonna be mad too.
Shoot back, yeah. So we don't have hogs and stuff up here in Wisconsin. We have some cougars, very, very few in our state. I've come across one in the time that I've been out in the woods, just footprints and stuff. But when you're looking at, the gators and the hogs down there, and you're talking about like these disappearances and stuff, like pigs can consume an entire body of a person. You hear the stories of people falling into the pig sties and stuff, and there's nothing left. So what when you're talking about these disappearances and stuff, what is different, and do you hear stories of gators and pigs attacking and killing people versus the Bigfoot? Like where do you draw the line between those two different scenarios?
Well, I have a friend that's a hog hunter. He has hog dogs. I've been going to go with him. I just never have had a chance. But he's told me, the hogs can tear up dogs real quick. He's lost several dogs. Far as really, I've heard of some people being run up trees by hogs before down in South Alabama. Right here, exactly where I live, the hogs don't make it here. Something thins them out. Personally, I think it's the boogers thinning them out. But
probably the Bigfoot. Yeah.
I think they get thinned out before they get started. We had some get started on Creepy Mountain one time. Don't know where they come from. All of a sudden, some hogs, wild hogs, popped in up there, and poof, they were gone. I mean, and nobody on the club took them out. Because a lot of them boys, they got tickled because they was fixing how we was going to have hogs on the club. I'm glad we didn't, because they will tear a place apart. But haven't really heard of anybody getting eaten by hogs. I don't think I have ever heard that. Occasionally, you'll hear somebody have a run-in with an alligator here and there, but not much. You hear that more from like Florida area where they have just so many of them. Here in Alabama, you don't really hear that much. Now, a good researching friend of mine, he's passed away now. He claims down there in South Alabama, he'd found where he thought a Bigfoot caught an alligator and killed it and ate it.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah. If there's any story of Bigfoot and alligators tangling.
Yeah, he found part of the alligator laying up the tree, and they were in a boat in them swamps, and they come around some islands in there, and he said there was partial alligator hanging up the tree. So, I mean, that also could have been a bear, maybe. I don't know, which bears usually bury their stuff instead of putting it up the tree. But he said that area right in there where they found that was also a area where a lot of sightings had been seen. People would be in there fishing and stuff and coming around them islands and get a glimpse of Bigfoot. So I imagine if they got a plentiful alligator population, they're going to utilize it just like they do hogs. That Lowndes County management area is full of hogs. So I'm pretty sure they're utilizing them. And there's another management area not far from me, 20 miles from me, that's got them. hogs on it, and there's been booger sightings from there, and I imagine they're utilizing them hogs, and wherever they're at, they're feeding off of them.
Interesting. We are coming up here on the end of the show. We got a little bit of time left. I apologize if maybe I missed a question or something in there. I tried to pay attention, but if you guys have a question for Mark, throw it in the comments section now. We'll try and get it in before we wrap things up here. But I know we wanted to talk about one other thing. Recently, you had another critter on your property down there,
Right.
and this is something that you don't necessarily hear too much about, like working together or in the same areas. So tell us what you had to happen recently.
Well, back a few months ago, I've got a big field out behind my house. I usually plant the watermelons, corn in, stuff like that. And I didn't plant it this year, but I was keeping it disced to keep any weeds from anything coming up. And I was just about done disking that field that evening. I had 2 buck deer, pretty buck deer, come busting out of the wood line into the field with me, heading toward me, which caught me off guard. They were at full stride when they come out of that wood line. I mean, they were moving. They got about halfway from the woods to me, and they turned broadside and went into my neighbor's property. Of course, I was watching them as they run off because one of them was a very nice buck. All his antlers were shining. The velvet doesn't come off. I mean, he is a nice buck. So I was watching them, and when I turned back, and my neighbor's land behind me had been clear cut last year, so it's a cutover coming back up. There's an opening there that I could see straight in, and I could see this black-looking object standing there. And I was like, first thought it was a Bigfoot standing there because I've had them here on my property. I've had them come in here. This thing turned, and when it turned is when I was able to really make out what I was looking at. And you could see this big old head with a snout on it. And you could see the little bitty ears. They wasn't these big Doberman Pinscher German Shepherd. This was more like little bitty ears, maybe 2 inches, but I could see them because when he turned, and he was probably about 25 yards into that cutover. I was probably by then getting closer. I was probably within 50 foot of the wood line. So give or take however far that would be. I was looking at him. He just turned and he walked right back into the cutover because the cutover done got up about 6-7 foot high. And I done a video on it. So you can go watch that video and you'll see what I'm really talking about. Of course, I just pretty much come on to the house. Shut the tractor off, called my wife, told her what I just saw, called a good friend of mine, Spencer, that has Woodwalkers podcast. I called him, talked to him. And, I've talked to some other people since then, like Kumbo and some other people that are a little familiar with dog men too. And a couple of people kind of went toward Gugway because of having its short snout. And it didn't really care I seen it. It was kind of like it wasn't worried about me looking at it. I mean, we don't know that for sure, but he's, just some of the characteristics that went on with that. But it was a dark brown. It was probably in the 6-7 foot range tall. The head, what caught me off was when it turned, how big its head was. Its head was not proportional with its body. I don't see how the thing can walk its head so big. I mean, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like, looking at your alien, your grays, how they have a big old head and little body. You're going, how's that thing even walk around without falling over? So that, it's kind of in that, it's kind of in that category. A few weeks later, or a little later than that, we were getting ready to do a Friday night live. We usually do our Friday night. Well, we do a Thursday night, then we do a Friday night because of the way I work now. So I was getting ready to do a Friday night live. We was setting up the computer outside. We have a fire pit. And we try when there's nice weather, we try to do our lives from out there at night. And I try to do that too, where if people might catch something in the background, and some people have in the past. Me and my stepdaughter was walking toward our fire pit, and I happened to look toward the wood line, and I seen a black object standing there. And then this black object moved, and then my stepdaughter seen it too. And she said, I can see its ears from here. Now, I could not. I don't know how she could see them, but she's young, so maybe her eyes a lot better than mine. And then it knelt down. It kind of went down toward the ground. I tried to zoom in with my iPhone to take pictures, but of course, I mean, I was getting some black blur, you know. I mean, you can't really tell nothing, but you could tell there was something black there. Then just a second later, it disappeared. Going back to a few years ago when I was doing a video out in my watermelon patch, I did not know that I had boogers and something else standing in the corn patch with me while I was sitting there doing a video. When that video came out, I started having people who watched the videos start sending me messages going, hey, there's stuff in your video. And they give me the timestamps, and I went and looked. Sure enough, there was what looked like boogers, but over in one frame that most people hadn't caught it. I had to usually point it out to them because they're looking at the bucket-headed Bigfoot. I call him bucket-headed. It looked like he got a bucket on his head or something. But over here in the far corner, when you pull up at, you see this dog-headed thing. It's about like what I saw out there that day. I mean, it's got a short muzzle, little short ears, and a big old head on it. So since then, I feel these things run together some. You know how a lot of people say they fight. I'm beginning to wonder if these things don't cohabitate with each other. You know, they get along maybe for a while. Or I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that question because I ain't no expert, but it just seems like they do run together. You know, maybe at times, I don't know. And I've heard other people say they see the same thing, that they run together some, you know. Then again, they may fight at times too. I have no idea. But so when that happened, but me and my wife's had a lot of stuff going on here since we moved here. We bought this property in 2019. I'm still 2.5 miles from the eastern edge of the Creepy Mountain. We've heard whoops. We've had the house knocked on, rocks thrown. I've had people come here and stay at night, have stuff happen with them, catch orbs. Had one of my good friends, Miss Pat. She brought her recorder here one time, stayed all night, and she got some weird stuff from this place, you know, late at night. Even though I have chickens and rabbits and goats and all this other stuff, there was some stuff in there. It wasn't them, you know, it was something else. We found footprints here in our fields and up here around the house. You know, catch our gates open into our pastures. My wife's rabbit barn, find cages open. The rabbits are not missing. Chickens are not missing. But you can tell that the rabbits are jittery. Like I can walk in there sometimes and they'll all jump, act scared. Then they realize it's me. Then they calm down. You know, it's like something's been in there fooling with them. And we did find a couple of rabbits in the cages passed away, but their backs were broke. Now, let me say something about that real quick. Mm-hmm. When you pick up a rabbit, if you don't pick that rabbit up just right and they go to kicking, they can break their own back. That's how strong their legs are. They can break their own back. So you got to know how to hold a rabbit where that doesn't happen. So I'm wondering if something was trying to play with the rabbits, didn't pick it up correctly, and the rabbit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one thing. You have to be real careful when you pick them up. That's why most people pick them up right behind the head and cradle their rear end, to keep them from bucking and doing that. Far as chickens, we have had chickens go missing, but I mean, I can't say what was getting them over time. It could have been an owl coming through at night. I mean, it could have been a coon that slipped in during the night, or, it could have been something else. But usually they leave evidence of them being there. And sometimes we've had stuff just disappear. There wasn't no evidence of it. So, I mean, I can't say that they got it. I can't say that. Far as trying to catch them on camera here, I've put up game cameras everywhere. I don't catch them you won't catch them hardly on game. Now, I've caught some weird stuff off my hunting club before. Some weird things come out from up there. But, that's kind of unexplainable. But, so that's the kind of stuff. So, yeah, I really became more of a believer in the dog man because also I've worked some dog man encounters now. I have a guy that I've been talking to for the last few years, been on his property. He's got a lot of pictures of what looks like dog men. I received a couple of reports of dog men. I don't know if they've been here or have they moved in, or I mean, that's what's kind of got me puzzled. Is it? I mean, I don't know what to do with that, So
let me ask you this: do you happen to live anywhere? These encounters and stuff, are they anywhere near like a military base or a quarry or cemeteries?
Well, yeah. The couple of places are right next to a river and right by an interstate, which is weird. There's some big industrial plants there, some big ones. In fact, I work at one of them. Real swampy area where some of that's coming from. Several years ago, I worked some booger sightings in that area too. Down here where I live at, we have the largest marble quarry in the world. I used to work at them marble quarries way back, but it's very huge. Also, we're at the end of the Appalachians here. This is pretty much where it ends. Gets into what you call the rolling hills before you get into the Gulf Plain. Tons of rivers. We got one of the rivers that comes right through here, comes out of northwest Georgia, southern Tennessee. It's called the Coosa River. And it runs right next to a ridge, one of the big ridges that come all the way down in here. And then right on the other side of it's another river called the Tallapoosa. It comes out from up there in northwest Georgia too. So very good travel path. And then, of course, Georgia has the Chattahoochee River. It comes out of the Chattahoochee National Forest. It comes right down to the Alabama line. So there's no telling what's traveling up and down those lines there. But Army bases, yes. Lowndes County is very close to Gunner Air Force Base. The little town where these sightings are is very close to an old Army base at Anniston, Fort McClellan. There's tons of booger sightings around Anniston area, especially out toward the Talladega National Forest side. In fact, they had years ago what they called the Chakalaka monster that was stirred up the newspapers in the neighborhoods. This was back in the 30s and 40s when this got stirred up. A lot of the farmers in the areas were seeing these, what they described gorilla-looking things out in their fields, because that's the only thing they knew probably how to explain it at that time period. What they were seeing, and there was news, and in fact, the sheriff got involved in it. There's some old newspaper articles on it. So yeah, a lot of these places are around quarries, because Alabama's full of quarries, limestone, granite, sand and gravel. Of course, the marble, which marble is part of limestone, but and then we do still have, and in fact, right here north of me was the old Alabama Ordnance Works from World War II, where they made the gunpowder for World War II, and also the heavy water for the atomic bombs were made there. A lot of people didn't know that for years. The Army kept that quiet, and they finally released that. And that's just 10 miles north of me. And a lot of stuff went on here during that time. And there's sightings from out there on that old place. And, in fact, that grist mill that my grandfather run borders that spot. So what I've seen is this stuff goes together. There's no doubt it goes all together,
Yeah, you hear a lot of the dogman sightings are around power stations, quarries, cemeteries, and military bases. And I'm trying to just kind of put that together and see, because, there could be a connection. Some people think that they're military or, some, experiment or something, but it also could just be that these areas are blocked off to the public. You don't have people in power stations. They're fenced off. They're, cordoned off. A lot of people don't go to the quarries and all that stuff. So it could just be that these areas are sanctuaries for these things. So it's just interesting to see if you got all that stuff near where these things are sited. So
yeah, and not too far from that, I forgot, is the Army Depot, which is where they repair the tanks and cannons, and of course that place has heavy security.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, and that's probably 10 miles from them sightings. But there's a big creek that comes from that area that goes right by him too. Alabama had a lot of military stuff for years, still does. I mean, we got Redstone and NASA in Huntsville, which is, right above Birmingham. We got Fort Rucker, which is where all the helicopters are. And of course, we got Fort Benning that's on the Alabama-Georgia line, down there at Columbus, right there where Mr. Dale lives. And then we had some old Army bases that's been shut down, like Fort McClellan, and there's one at Selma, old Air Force Base that was shut down at Selma. So, yeah, there's stuff all around, military, quarries everywhere. I mean, about every county has a bunch of quarries in it, stuff like that. And we got a lot of power plants here in Alabama, a lot of dams, a lot of steam plants, got a few nuclear power plants, but they're on the rivers. Some of them's real huge. They're real big power plants.
Wendell says, Mark, you are an Alabama encyclopedia. Awesome.
Read a lot on history and read a lot of stuff. And I tell you, that's how you do your research. I'm not saying I'm good at it now. I'm just saying read, and research. Don't believe just what somebody tells you. Go look it up and start reading it for yourself. And that's how you learn stuff, and you start putting stuff together like that. You start seeing stuff just like what you was talking about, the sightings compared to the quarries and power plants and Army bases. And I mean, you go looking at that and you go, wow, some of this stuff is kind of clicking together, So.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, you've mentioned it a couple times. Let's talk real quick here at the end about your Facebook page and your YouTube. Tell us where you can find it, what you can find there, and have a get together, you said, coming up in the spring as well. Tell us about that.
Well, we hadn't decided the exact date on in the spring. Spencer from Woodwalkers, we're going to try to have a spring meetup. We just don't know where we're at yet, and the exact date, but that will probably be pretty soon. We'll come out with that date and where we're at. A lot of people have come to it. The last couple we had over 100 people come. I'm talking about these people camping. So, we had big camp outs, and we still had an activity at these camp outs. It kind of blew my mind with that many people stuff going on. But as far as our channel, is Cedar Creek Bottoms Farmstead Life. It started off as a homesteading channel. My wife kind of started off just showing the plants she grows and doing canning and fooling with the animals. And me and her both kind of grew up in the farming lifestyle. When I was growing up, I'd done a lot of, my family was involved in a lot of row crop and cattle. And of course, we're all big hunters and everything, trapping and hunting and fishing. So, but she kind of grew up more with the gardens and chickens and rabbits. And so she started this channel. Then she told me one day, she said, you need to start documenting all these experiences you've had with Bigfoot and other people have had. So we started mixing it, and it seemed like it's working pretty good. And I do different videos. Sometimes I interview people, and sometimes we jump off on some other stuff. We've went biblical here a little bit lately because I love that subject. And we've went off down that road a little bit, and I've got a lot of other people I need to interview. It's just hard sometimes to get everybody together, and to set a time. And some people I wish I could get on, but they just ain't gonna do it. they just refuse. Nope, I ain't getting on there telling that. So, but we talk about a little bit of different. We do lives every week. Like I said, one time, 1 week it's on Thursday because of the way I'm working now. And then the next week it falls on Friday. And we just go down. We just talk about life. My wife does some stuff on plants and herbs or gardening. And then I'll usually talk a little bit about something going on, either Bigfoot, paranormal related or something else. One thing I try to stay away from is politics. That seems to get people tore up too much. So we tend to stay away from that as too much. But and Facebook, she does more with it than I do, but I really need to start putting my pictures on that Facebook account. I need to really put my tracks, pictures of stuff. I need to really put it over where people can really go look at it. That way they ain't got to go through 30 minutes of video to see it, Mm-hmm. That way they can pull it up. And I really need to do that. Start putting it over and where people can access it better and look at it, Because what I do now, if I have pictures, she just inserts it into the video somewhere, which you can pause it and look at it, of course. But that's how I've been doing. But I probably do need to put them over there where people can really look at them better, and stuff. Because a lot of people haven't seen them yet. They hadn't went and watched that video or they hadn't seen that stuff, a lot of that stuff. So, but, and I wish I had all of my evidence prior to 2013. That got lost in went through a divorce. The laptop went with my wife. I'm not saying she done anything. I just don't know what happened to it, but it disappeared. I had a lot of evidence, but I got lucky. My buddy Keith, my researcher buddy, even though he doesn't research now, he still has a lot of the same stuff I had back then. So, so some of that's still there,
Cool. Awesome. Well, I hope that you get copies of it and get that in for people to, check out and stuff. So.
Yeah, I got to get Keith back on. He's done one video with me. I need to get him back on and let him really go into a lot of stuff because it just wouldn't be me talking creepy, man. I wish I could get my friend Adam, but he just ain't gonna do it. So he when he backed off of it, he backed off of it 100%, So, it's just the way it goes,
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, we are at our time here for today. I want to thank you so much for coming on. You got all kinds of really cool stories, and we could probably chat the rest of the day. And there's so many other things that I want to ask you, but we'll have to have you back on and chat more again. So,
well, I appreciate you having me on, and
absolutely,
I appreciate the people in chat. I see a lot of my family in there tonight.
Very busy today, yeah.
I want to say this: our group backs each other up real good. If one of our people are on somewhere, our people going to be in chat with them, and that's a good thing. I mean, that shows support and appreciation, and I really appreciate that. So,
absolutely. At one point, I glanced up and there was 39 people watching live, and that's pretty good for noon on a Monday. So, you know, that's pretty good, guys. So I really appreciate you guys checking it out and listening. Hope that you check out the other shows, my shows, and the other shows on the network as well. But Mark, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it too. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. You take care. Best of luck to you.
All right. Thank you. Same to you.
All right, guys, that is our show for today. Make sure you check out Mark's YouTube and Facebook channels. They are in the show notes for you to get the links if you are interested in that. Give them a like, subscribe, and share. And thank you guys all for tuning in here, supporting Mark and checking out the show today on the Untold Radio Network. Here we have all kinds of shows on the network. If you're interested, check them out as well, all from Bigfoot, paranormal, UFOs, you name it here. So hopefully you can give a like, subscribe, and share to the Untold Radio Network. And if you're interested in all the stuff that I do, check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society Wisconsin Caps. And you can find us on YouTube and all of your social media platforms as well. Head on over, give us a like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the edge.